What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and today we're going to be delving deep into Son Heung-min and the stats surrounding how his role has changed within the Tottenham Hotspur setup. And it makes for interesting reading, to be honest. A lot of stats and facts and figures to get into. So I'll leave that on to Sim.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of the question marks around Sonny, especially this season and over, has his legs fallen off? A lot of people asking, like, what is Son? Is he declining? All these different things. I'm looking at a lot of these stats, and I think it does definitely tell a different story as to what people are seeing with Son, as to the reality of all these questions. In terms of like barefaced numbers, he's currently on 22 goal contributions this season, all competitions, which is, still pretty much in line with being a really good season with him. Obviously, his best one was 35 goal contributions. That was actually under Mourinho. But 22 when it comes to when it comes to what's quite interesting is his goals is actually per 90 one of his worst. But when it comes to assists, it's his best. So I think that in itself tells a little bit of a story of Sonny and how his role has kind of changed in this Tottenham system. And it's not a case of him being worse. It's about a bit more of a case of him being different, I would say. If you go to the first radar I want to show you is it's just his overall one. It's one with like different colours on it. That one. So this is kind of like, that's him this season in the Premier League. This is how his radar is shown. So what you're looking at is the four different colours are, the grey is kind of like in possession, take-ons, how good he is at progressing the ball forward, those kind of things, how good he is at taking people on. The blue, the dark blue, is like creativity, key passes, chances created, that kind of stuff. The small orange bit there you can see is actually his defensive numbers, how many tackles he's making, all these kind of things. And the turquoise top left, that's like shooting, how many shots he's getting off, how many goals he's scoring, that kind of stuff. So what you can see right now is the grey is like okay, it's like above average but nothing spectacular, kind of getting quite a few touches, but his take-ons are pretty below average. His shooting is still pretty good. He's still getting quite a lot of shots off. His shot totals are pretty good. Shots on target's pretty good. Expected goals are pretty good. But what's really impressive is that dark blue there, bottom right, all in the upper 90th percentile in terms of creativity. Key passes really high. Shot creating actions really high. Passes into the penalty area, all these different things. Those are really, really strong. And I think, obviously, Son's playing a much more of a creative role under Ange Postecoglou than he has done. But what I think the stats are showing is he's adapted quite well to it. And people may be saying, I guess the narrative around Son is he's not, before this season anyway, not much of a creator, much more of a goal scorer, likes to run in behind. But what the stats are currently showing is he's been asked to create more, and he's actually thriving a lot more in this creativity role. He's getting more assists than he ever has. He's actually one of the highest assisters in the Premier League in general. And when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to kind of key passes, chances created, all these kind of things, he's one of the best in Europe at the moment. That's what the stats are showing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective on it, obviously he's on 9 assists this season in the Premier League. His best season to date, which he hit 3 times, was last season in 1920 and 2021, was 10 assists in a season. So obviously he's on track to beat that and to get his most assists he's ever got in a Premier League campaign. But you're looking at the areas that he takes up on the pitch and what he's being asked to do. I feel like definitely in the early stage of this season, he was asked to be like a touchline winger. But then, like, as the season progressed, he's kind of like found himself in more central areas as the season's gone. Whereas obviously last season he was number 9, but I'm talking about his role pre-Ange Postecoglou. He was more in that kind of asked to be to the centre left pretty much for the predominant space of his Tottenham career. And I think that is the areas he works the best in, and I think that's the areas that he can hurt the opposition in. I feel like when he's asked to be a touchline winger, particularly in the first stage of this season, probably hurt his season more than anything.
Yeah, but that's fair. And I think he's definitely... Look, I want to look at a comparison, actually. This is quite interesting. So this comparison you're going to bring up is between this season and the 21-22 season when he got the golden boot, I think. So Yeah, so this is how the radar compares to. This is what he is now compared to what he was back then. What you can see on the left there, that's like the shooting. He was taking a lot more shots back then. He was scoring more goals. Expected goals was higher, but he was creating a lot less. As you can see at the bottom right, creativity is a lot higher than it was back when he won the Golden Boot. So what he's kind of lost in the shooting and kind of the goal scoring element, he seems to be gaining in kind of the creativity element of his game, which is something that maybe it's not a case of like him being worse at something. It's just him changing his role potentially is what we're seeing within the team. In terms of shooting numbers, they're not that. They are worse, no doubt about it. But I think the gap between his shooting decrease is not as big as maybe the increase in his creativity. When it comes to kind of his take-ons and stuff, what's interesting is he takes on in terms of the amount of times he dribbles and takes people on, it's quite a similar amount, but the percentage in terms of successful a lot higher back then when it was in 21, 22, when he was obviously a bit younger. He was a bit better at dribbling than he is now, I think, it's fair to say. But it's quite interesting. Obviously, that was the season he won the Golden Boot. If you want to look at maybe how he was back in his younger days under Pochettino. So that was under Conte we just saw. Under Pochettino, if you go to how he was in the 17-18 season, not that one. Yeah, that one. So the blue is now and the red is that was how he was when he was younger. A lot better with his dribbling. You can see on the top right, the red kind of really dominates, but he wasn't creating at all, really. Really low numbers when it comes to like creating chances and things like that. And the shooting, which is top left again, quite a lot stronger, a lot more shots than he's taking in the current iteration. So it's kind of a very different winger. Because he did play kind of out wide a lot for Pochettino. I can't remember too many times. He obviously played up front quite a bit as well, especially when Kane was injured. But he was obviously predominantly a left winger under. Actually, he was probably a lot closer to being a proper winger under Pochettino than he was under like Conte or Mourinho. You would probably say.
Would you call it a proper winger, like a touchline winger?
Yeah, maybe like a touchline winger. Like he was much less of like a forward probably under Pochettino potentially than under Conte.
He was
and
still
Mourinho.
getting a very central under Pochettino though.
He was probably still more a forward than a winger.
Yeah.
Under Poch, but he was probably closer to a winger there under Poch than he was under Conte
That's
or Mourinho.
the thing, right? Like, it's all well and good bringing up these stats, but the roles he's taken up in each and every one of these systems are all so different. And the best and what got best out of him was the Mourinho role and the Conte role, right? And those two roles had him a lot more central than maybe the Postecoglou role. And I feel maybe it's the role because of you've seen the goals decrease. I think it's because of the role he's playing and not because of the player diminishing in quality.
No, I'm not talking about diminishing quality. I'm talking about that's exactly the point. He's just changing his role.
Yeah.
And yes, he's getting less goals, but he's also creating a lot more chances and he's being much more creative. Mm-hmm. And that can't be, forgotten or taken away from him. This was, if you go to the next one, this was, go to this one. So this is quite interesting. This is comparing his last season under Conte to what Ange's to this season under Ange, and obviously he had a real struggle that season, didn't he? And quite low on everything. He had a really poor season, but it's quite important to remember that this was the Son that Ange kind of picked up. It was a Son that was struggling. It was a Son that was really looked like a lot of people were saying there was real signs of decline. It was a really poor season under Antonio Conte, and you can see here like the dribbling was way down. The shooting was also not as strong as it used to be. The creativity was really really low. What's quite interesting in all these stats, by the way, is the defending is really low in all of them. He was never really a great defensively. As much as he worked hard, he doesn't really make many tackles and stuff. But when we're assessing Son and how he is, I think it's important to remember like Son was off the back of a really bad season when Ange got him.
He was, but then didn't he go for surgery straight after that season? And it came to light that he was pretty much playing with an injury throughout the majority of that season. So you can give him a pass because of that. He says right now that he's playing at his most physical. He's at his physical peak. That's what Sonny's saying now. So I'm very happy that Son has upped his creation level, and it's probably the best that he's been in his career, and that's a credit to Ange for getting that out, and a credit to Sonny for kind of developing himself in that kind of way. But I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, I sit here and I look at Sonny and I look at what he can bring to the team, and I just feel like if he was been playing in a better positionally on the pitch, he could get so many more goals for us as well as keeping that kind of chance creation at where it is.
Yeah.
Do you not agree with that?
Well, potentially, but the funny thing is that's where he was playing under Conte in that season, and it wasn't really working. And yes, he was playing with injury as well, so you got to caveat it. But as well, there was a lot of, I think, tactical issues.
But he was playing in that position the season before, and he got the Golden Boot.
And he got the Golden Boot, correct. But maybe teams were kind of adjusting to that.
I mean, it's clear he was playing with an injury all season. So, and he had to go for surgery straight after the season finished. So, I mean, I think it's more leaning towards that direction than he was like kind of being found out.
I'm not saying he was being found out as a player. I'm just saying maybe the way that position for him, maybe he did need somewhere where he had a bit more space potentially. Whereas being a bit more central, you see right this season anyway when he's played centrally. I know as a striker it's a bit different, but he can struggle a bit in the central areas as well and out wide. Maybe not necessarily on the touchline all the time, but first of all, I do think his position's changed a bit anyway as the season's gone on. Yeah, but I do think in this stage of his career, maybe he thrives a bit more when he's got a bit more space, when he can create a bit more, and that's brought a different side of his game. Yes, I'd like to see Sonny score more goals. I think no doubt about it. He has got 11 goals in all competitions, but we know. I think I'm looking at the stats here. It's in terms of goals per 90, it's one of the lowest since he joined Tottenham. What's quite interesting though, what I looked at is when it comes to shots and shots on target per 90, his two lowest in a Spurs shirt were the seasons under Conte and Mourinho, where he scored loads of goals. So I think obviously that was more to do with how they played, the counter-attacking style. When we turned over the ball, he looked for Sonny directly, and it wasn't. Obviously, right now we play possession-based football. He has a lot more of the ball. He has a lot more chances to kind of attack players and go at players and shoot and things like that and create chances. Whereas under Conte and Mourinho, it was all about picking your moments, wasn't it, and just being really effective and clinical,
ruthless.
And so that I think that's quite interesting in terms of the amount of shots and shots on target. He's actually getting more now than he was in those seasons when he got the Golden Boot.
Yeah, I mean, it is true to say that some of the chances Sonny's missed this season, like you wouldn't have envisaged him missing those over in particularly those eras, the Conte and the Mourinho era. Like he'd gobble up those chances for fun. So I'm not really sure what I put that down to. It could be a confidence thing or something like that. But look, I think like his role has definitely developed, and he's definitely moving on from being that kind of ruthless killer that was taking on men for will and you know, I don't know what he's doing with his XG, but every single year he used to massively outdo his XG, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he's doing that this year, but it definitely goes to show that his role has changed, but it also goes to show that he's still a very, very good player at this level.
He's in terms of XG, he is still outperforming it, but not as wildly as he has done. He's like got 11 goals from 9 XG, so still pretty good. But he's usually like 20 from like 14 or something. So when but you also, I think, isn't it fair to say that a lot of players, when they get to Sonny's age, they do kind of become a lot more creative potentially. Like you see that with Kane, you sort of like players like Messi. You've seen it with like players like Salah as well, becoming a lot more creative. I know he's still getting goals as well, but he's become a lot more creative as his career's gone on. So is that maybe just, could it be just the next stage of his development, the next stage of kind of his evolution as a player, let's say?
Yeah, it's true. It does happen to all these players, and they do kind of develop and move on. But also, on the same side of things, all those players that you talk about, their goal scoring never really took too much of a hit. They still scored a mad amount of goals each season.
Yeah, and Sonny at the moment, I think in the Premier League it's 7 goals. In all competitions it's 11 goals, which is not, obviously we want him to be getting more than that. The season's not over. We don't know how many goals he will end up with. But yeah, I think we definitely want him to be scoring more goals than he is. But it's not like it's been a massive, I mean, it's been a drop off, don't get me wrong. He's on 11 goals right now. It is, in terms of per 90, it's his worst. It's one of his worst.
Forget all competitions, that's 11. But in the Premier League alone, it's 7 goals in 26 games. I mean, someone of Sonny's quality, it needs to be a lot more than that.
But you could end up with 10.
Yeah,
at least
still, 10 he got in his poor season under Conte playing with injury.
But he didn't get as many assists as he's getting now.
Yeah, that season he got 6 assists, but also, playing injury. But I would still like to see him, a guy of Sonny's quality, particularly with the finishing that he has, the kind of elite finishing that we've seen over the course of the years. He should be on 15 minimum.
In terms of all-round like goals and assists, he's on 22 right now, which is, I mean, he could. I don't know what he'll end up on again. That's in all competitions, obviously, but he could end up close to 30 potentially, which wouldn't be a bad return at all in terms when it comes to goals and assists. And it would show that in terms of providing those kind of numbers for goal contributions, he's still quite up there.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, he would have a lot more assists to his name as well if we had killers in the other areas of the pitch. I mean, I know Brennan Johnson, he's probably our leading goal scorer this season, and Son's probably laid on quite a few assists for him. But Dom Solanke, he's supposed to come in and score quite a few goals and hasn't really materialised like that. And I know Spurs are second or third highest goal scorers in the Premier League. But if we had actual killers in the front third alongside of Sonny, I think both his numbers will probably go up massively.
Okay, let's look at some of his heat maps quickly, because I think it just tells a story, I think, of the evolution of how he's changed as a player. I've kind of taken out last season because last season was a bit of an outlier in terms of his position. But if you look at so we're going to look at some of his season heat maps over the years. This was his season under Mourinho, where him and Kane were obviously scoring loads of goals that season, and he had that was the first season where he was like getting real elite numbers in front of goal. You can see fairly central there. Does also touch the ball quite a bit out wide. Does quite a bit of defensive work on that left hand side, but you see quite concentrated in the central area. Not much kind of touches in the penalty area, to be honest. A lot of it's outside. But yeah, quite a bit central, that kind of left forward kind of area. The next one, this is the season he won the Golden Boot. Quite interesting, not much concentration, which means he actually wasn't touching the ball that much, was he? He was kind of just running onto things, getting onto counter-attacks. But again, similar area under Mourinho, kind of central, centre-left. That was kind of, this is when he won the Golden Boot. Actually, not much out wide. You look at that kind of area, that winger area, not much there actually, quite not really concentrated, more just in the centre. This was his last season under Conte where he really struggled. Fairly similar. I guess the difference between then is touching the ball, not a lot. Just the difference is he wasn't as ruthless, or maybe getting the chances he was. But here's the difference between that and now. This is his heat map this season. What a massive difference that is. Absolutely, I think that's like a big change. Massive concentration near the touchline. I think a few key differences. First of all, in the central left area, there's still quite a bit of concentration there. You can see just to the left of it, but obviously a lot of it is really far out wide, like on the touchline. A lot more concentration actually in his own half, which maybe shows he's doing maybe a bit more defending than he has done previously, which I don't know whether you can say is a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, it shows his willingness to work, but also, do you really want him defending that much? Maybe not.
What this tells me is that maybe for a player of 32 years of age that has such elite quality in terms of finishing, I think we make him do a bit too much running for where he's at in his career. Yeah,
that's also a fair point. Maybe it's a bit too much kind of going backwards there. You don't want him running as much as that in his own half, I would say.
You'd never see Liverpool asking Salah to do that.
That's fair. But what's also quite interesting, if you see in the penalty area on the left-hand side, quite a lot of concentration there, which if you look at the other ones, like there was very little inside the penalty area. He's actually, I think, touching the ball inside the box a lot more than he was. But again, it's to the left-hand side, but it's kind of the position you like to see him in, that left-hand side of the penalty area. So I think that kind of heat map does tell the story of how his role has changed down the years.
Absolutely, it has, and you can see that's what we're talking about, being a touchline winger. And back to your points on the Mourinho and Conte thing. I mean, it's no real surprise that his goal tally from the left-hand side has dramatically gone down from those areas when you don't have a Harry Kane kind of feeding you, because we don't have anyone close to that kind of ability in the middle of the park that can like spray those balls and find him in behind. He just can't get on the end of them because we don't have that kind of player.
Yeah, then first of all, that he's lost that link up, but also I think we're coming up when we played under Conte and Mourinho. We're kind of sitting a bit deeper, and obviously we're looking to catch teams out on the counter attack. And obviously that's perfect, obviously, for a player like Sonny with those attributes when it comes to running in behind, exploiting space, finishing one-on-one, and those kind of things. Obviously, now we're a bit more possession-based. We're forcing the game on the opposition. We're forcing them back, and they're clogging up the space. So he's had to adapt his game quite a bit. My only point is he's adapted his game, and it is different. He's not getting as many goals, but he's adapted it in a creative way, and he's actually doing quite a good. The numbers, and he suggests creatively, he's one of the best in the Premier League when it comes to how many chances he's creating, all these different things. And in terms of his assist numbers, he's right up there when it comes to the number of assists as well in the Premier League. I think he's like, I don't know, he's quite high. I think he's in the top 5 potentially. So he is actually
9 assists in the Premier League this season. But the real reality is that before this season, 3 out of the last 4 seasons, if you take out that Conte season, it's close to, if not 30 goal contributions in the Premier League. I'm not sure if he's going to get that this season.
Well, he's on how many at the moment? He's on 16 goal contributions in the Premier League, and obviously he's going to be rested, I'm assuming, for a lot of these Premier League games coming up as well. So yeah, he'll probably hit 20 goal contributions, maybe a bit more, but he'll probably hit that. But what my only point is, I think creatively, I think his game has adapted to a lot more creating than it is just purely goal scoring, which I think was a bit of a criticism before. Like, he wasn't maybe creating as many as he should be, and I think at the moment he's actually having his most creative season this season, which I think shows his adapting role and shows he's got how much he has still to give.
Yeah, and look, I don't doubt that Sonny still has a lot more to give. I just feel like, with the caliber of player he is, he still can do a lot more, and maybe it is because of the way the team is set up and the roles he takes in the team. I mean, 9 assists this season is great, but he has hit 10 on 3 separate occasions, and how many do you reckon he gets by now at the end of the season?
I don't know. If he goes on the current trajectory he's on, which is 0.35, which is 1 every 3 games. So that's another 3 assists.
You know what I mean? So
4 assists probably. Actually, it's a bit more because it's close to 0.4. So it's like about 4 or 5 assists, another 4 or 5.
You see what I mean? So like the number of assists is not like going up, isn't in line with the number of goals going down. So you're still going to dramatically decrease from what you know and love from Sonny. And I still feel he's got it in his locker to get a lot more goals, plus kind of add those assists to his game. So
he's also probably been a bit overplayed though at times. You
Yeah,
know,
100%.
when we had
100%.
we haven't managed him that well. We had the injury crisis.
Yeah, I think the management of Son this season has been really poor, and that is down to the management. But there's no doubt about it. He is still a fantastic player. He's still a top level player, and it's just about how you go about getting the best out of him. And are we actually going about it in the right way of getting the best out of him? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, I think creatively it suggests we are getting a very high level.
That's just from one aspect of it.
Yeah.
And there's a whole loads of different aspects about getting the best out of his all-round game. Are we getting the best out of his all-round game?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think we're not getting the best out of his goal scoring. But we're playing in a different way. We need him more creatively as well at the moment.
Yeah, but we also need his goals as well. So it's not just one or the other. It could be both. You look at Mo Salah this season, he's having the best season of his life in a Liverpool shirt. He's got the most amounts of goals in the Premier League. He's got the most amount of assists in the Premier League. And I think, look, I don't think Sonny should be emulating what Salah's doing this season. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is 7 goals and 9 assists. I think he could be doing better in probably both.
But you could end with, at least 10 each.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. If he ends with 10 each at this stage, it's probably a really good end to the season.
Well, it's only 4 goal contributions in the last 9 games.
No, 10 of each. Yeah, 4. I mean, he needs 4 goals and 1 assist, or 3 goals and 1 assist.
3 goals and 1 assist. That's 4 goal contributions, really, in 9 games. I think he's capable of that.
Yeah, of course he's capable of it, but I think he should be getting more with the quality of player that he is.
All right. Well, that's how Sonny's role has changed.
Yeah, that is how Sonny's role has changed. For the better or worse, you let me know in the comment section below. Obviously, Sonny, I think, like, how many years do you reckon he's got left? Do you think next year is going to be his last year at Spurs?
I don't think it has to be honest, but it might be.
I don't want it to be. I think he's still got quite a few years that he can perform at a really good level if you give him the help that he needs and you give him the quality and rotation, which we don't really have at this moment in time. And potentially with a new manager next season as well, adapting his role even more, getting him in areas where his goals tally still remains at a good level and his chance creation carries on the trajectory that it is going. So I still think he's more than capable enough of that. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, people. That is our take on how Sonny's role has changed in this Ange Postecoglou side. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.